let's talk about Cattleyas. Cattleyas orchids are mostly native. Well, actually, Cattleyas orchids are native from Central and South America. From I want to say the central part, Costa Rica, towards Argentina. Cattleya used to be also known as the corsage orchids. They are very fragrant, comes in different colors. The species. Now, the species only bloom once a year, or the hybrids twice a year. This is your typical Cattleya. They need to be reported. I would like to repot the Cattleyas every 3 years. That gives us enough time for the plant to grow properly and comfortable in their environment. Also, will give you a good amount of bloom. An important thing that I always recommend to our students is for you guys to find a place that you can make a mess. It's going to be a little messy, so always find a spot that you can say, okay, this is my messy spot, so it won't disturb your house that much. You know, I like to put everything in a small container, so again, we can control the mess we want to create. So here we go. This is a typical Cattleya. They need to be reported. An important issue is the name. Don't forget the name of the orchid. Save it, because the name is one of the most important parts. If you don't have the name, don't worry about it. But if you have the name, save it. So now, what we do first, we pull the plant out of the pot. We use some tools. I like to use bird tweezers for that, because it helps me to push anything outside. Now, what we do, we remove all the material that's holding the plant in place. You know, so sometimes there are things that are being attached here. So what we do, we pull the plant out of the pot very carefully. Take the plant out of the pot. Don't feel bad to do that. You're gonna lose some root system, but don't feel bad. Another thing is, this is garbage. Do not recycle the medium. You can recycle the pot, but do not recycle the medium. So the medium goes to the garbage. And you can put the pot on the side. To clean the pot, I will explain that later on. Now we have here the orchid is out of the pot. You can see the root system. This is a good moment to see how well the plant is doing. If you have a healthy root system, the plant is doing well. Even though the top doesn't look that good, the leaf looks wrinkled, or the plant doesn't look that good. If you have a good root system, trust me, the plant is a happy camper. The good root system is when you see thick roots, white. You see that this type of roots, white, thick, and very healthy. This is an old root, as you can see it. This is something that is not good because it's dead, but this one looks very healthy. So definitely this is a healthy root. This is a dead root system. As you can see, the best way to determine is a dead one. When you grab it, you pull it, you're gonna end up with a filament. When the filament, that's a dead root system, so you can cut it. This is something that have to go. Like I said before, I like to use a pair of tweezers. You can use something else as well, but I like to use this. So what you do, you kind of brush the root system. Again, don't feel bad if you're not harming the plant at all. What you're doing is just cleaning all the debris that is attached to the root system, which that's what you want. You want everything to be as clean as possible, unless before you start working with it. It's gonna take a couple seconds. Well, I want to say at least a minute or two. So what we do, clean up. Also, at this moment, sometimes dead part of the plant is gonna come out. So if there are, just throw it away. You continue cleaning, and one of the goals is to get all the soil, all the material of the plant, of the root system. Now, as you can see, this is a very healthy root system, very healthy plant. Everything looks happy. The plant is happy. There are some roots need to be cut, but overall the plant is very healthy. This is very dangerous part of the plant, the new growth. They're very fragile and they can break very easily. So I always recommend when you deal with this, you have to be very careful, be aware that they're there. So keep an eye on it. What do we do? The next step is an important part. I like to sterilize the tools. Some people, you can do 10% alcohol, 10% Clorox. You can do 70 alcohol, you dip it in alcohol, that'll sterilize enough. I like to burn the root. I like to burn the tools. It does save me a lot of headache. If you can burn it, That would be ideal. If not, don't worry about it. Don't get it right hot. Just count to 5. That will be more than enough time to sterilize everything. As you can see, this is a dead part. What we do, we cut it as close as you can to the plant. This is the back ball and it's dry. We cut it. There you are. Now, let's check out the root system. Now, you see this root is dead, so we cut it. To determine that it's a dead root system, because it has a filament. It doesn't have the thickness, it has a filament. So that tells you that it's a dead root system, so you should cut it. So just cut it. Sometimes you want to come across with orchids that the entire root system is not that well, and you need to get rid of them. If that ever the issue, don't panic. It will happen. My best advice: just clean up all the root, clean up the plant, lay it on your bench. If you can, put up your sphagnum moss. This is sphagnum moss. Just make a very thin layer of sphagnum moss on your benches, and just lay the plant over there. Let the plant wait a couple of weeks for the plant to throw your new root system. You see the plant throw your new root system, which is like a small green tips from the bottom. Then you can plant it. You know, is that the case? That you have to cut all the root system. Don't cut it unless you have to. Now, every so often, I'm being asked the question a lot. Then what about when the bulb is a bulb? It doesn't have any leaf. If it's green, leave it, because that's where the plants hold the food on Cattleyas. If it's dry like this, then you can cut it. Don't worry about it. Remember, if it's green without a leaf, leave it. Dry without a leaf, cut it. So now, our next step. The next step will be the pots. You can use any type of pots. Any type of pots you want to use. You can use wood, plastic, clay, whichever you prefer. Here at Vizcaya, New Zealand Garden, we prefer to use the clay pots. The next step to repot the plants is the drainage. Drainage is an extremely important part of the orchids, because even though the orchids they love humidity, they don't like to stay wet. They don't like the feed to be wet. The problem with that is, if you don't have good enough drainage, what's going to happen? The root system start rotting, and then that's when you're in trouble. So what you want to make sure that you have a good drainage. For Cattleyas, some people like to put styrofoam peanuts. Some people like to put plastic pots inside out. Some people like to put broken clay pots. In this case, we're going to use a broken clay pot for drainage. So that's definitely going to do so. It's going to help us a lot. So if it's not broken, you can break it with a hammer. Please be careful when you do this, so you won't harm yourself. Just a little bit. That's good. That's a good amount of pieces. So what you do, you put it in the bottom, and like this. You want to make sure you have at least half of that, so you have enough drainage for the plant. Now the next step is the medium. The medium that I like to use is a medium of fir bark, charcoal, sponge rock, and olive floor. You can use that. Also, you can use fir bark, charcoal, and sponge rock. Pretty much here you can use any type of medium that you like to use. The medium, but definitely keeping this in mind, the medium will control the amount of water you want to apply. I will explain to that in a little bit. Any medium that you like to use, put like a 50% charcoal. It will help you. Charcoal tends to clean and filter a lot of impurities and help a lot of the orchids. Now, what we do, collect the medium. This is the part that's a little messy, and just pour inside of the pot. You know, this is what I would say. Try to find a place that you're gonna make a mess, because it's gonna be a little messy. So now, with your fingers, tip of your fingers, you start smashing it like this, just to settle everything down. You know, very little. Don't be that hard. You know what I mean? So you won't break your nails or yourself. You know. So that will be enough. This is good amount of medium. You need not overload it. You need overflow the pot. You know, you want to give like a probably this amount of probably a finger, thick of a finger. You know, that's how much medium you want between the medium and the edge of the pot. Now, the orchid come here. This is the front of the orchid where the orchid is growing. This is the back of the orchid where the orchid is coming from. The front part, you want to make sure that is going towards the growth of the pot, which is this area. This is the back. So what do? You present the orchid first. This is how the orchid is gonna be planted. Now, what do? We use a rhizome clip to hold the orchids in place. Cattleyas, a lot of orchids, they don't like to be shaking or moving or wobbling because they won't grow very well. So you want to make sure they're pressed against the medium for the first few months. Once you see the plant being attached and the root system going through the medium, then you're fine. But in the meantime, this is a rhizome clip. The only thing of this existence is just to hold orchids in place. That's it. This is a very important part. And you have to be very careful. You put the orchid against the back against the wall. You press it down a little bit, and then with the rhizome clip, you just push it down a little bit. There you are. Now, sometimes you don't want to work the first time. Just keep trying. Sometimes like, oh my God, it didn't clip. Don't worry about it. Just keep trying. It looks pretty easy for me, but I've been doing this for at least 40 years. So for me, it's like a second nature. Now, the other part is we fill it up the rest with a medium. A little bit. And there you are. The Cattleya is repotted. Sometimes you're gonna have this. This is a dry sheet. Those are flowers that didn't come out, or the plant didn't want to bloom, or something like that. So because they're dry, you can cut it. Another thing is this is a bracts. These are pretty much the old skin of the orchids. What do? You can clean it up with your finger, or if you have one handy, you can use an old toothbrush. And very gentle, you just go around to remove the bracts of the orchids. As you can see, remember what I told you in the beginning about the new growth? It might break, so don't feel bad. If it breaks, don't feel bad. At this stage, mostly what we do, we just spray with water. So we clean get everything out of the plant, out of the medium. We pretty much clean the plant. Now, Cattleyas, take care of a Cattleya. This is a typical Cattleya. As you can see, being recently reported, and here in Vizcaya, we are very careful with the Cattleyas, especially the species one. We have a great program we're building and a great collection we're also building. Take care of the Cattleyas. First, the temperature. The Cattleyas like to between the lowest can go between 40, the highest 80, 90 degrees. That's the highest it can go. If it goes any lower, what you're gonna have a little bit, the plant might get a little bit frostbite or gonna go to sleep, and you have to go into the spring for the plant to wake up. Now, if I below 85, 90 degrees or a little more than 90 degrees, what's gonna happen is gonna be heat stress on the plant. And sometimes when you're gonna have the leaf are gonna be wrinkled, kind of droopy, and they won't look that good. You might lose the flowers and applying some bloom on the plant. You notice there's a lot of stress because of the heat. If that happens because of the heat, just put a fan on it so you can keep the temperature nice, at least the air movement. That's why they love. Also, temperature is lower. If it gets too cold, my best advice, you can bring it inside of the house to prevent any cold weather. Or if you cannot bring it inside the house because your collection is very big, just cover it with some plastic or some cloth, something that keep the temperature around the orchids. Cattleyas, I like to grow Cattleyas with a lot of light. Mostly the good rules of thumb. If you can see your shadow, that's too much light. So if you can barely see your shadow, that will be the right amount. It's bright enough. If that's on the greenhouse conditions, bright enough they can bloom, but it's because the problem is bright enough it can bloom. Now, if you don't have a greenhouse, you have it outside. The best way to put it is facing east, where the sun comes out. The reason that is you want to avoid the noon light. You want to have light. You want to give direct light before 11:30 or after 3 o'clock. You want to avoid the noon because that's when you get sunburn. Sunburn is a typical damage on the leaf. You notice right away that it's sunburn. Mostly what you're gonna see is like a brown spot, turns black, and it's right up, and pretty much you can punch your finger. Pretty much all the tissue on the leaf will die, and it's gonna be it's like a paper shape. Water is very important, but you have to be careful with the water because too much water you kill the plant. So sometimes to grow your Cattleyas, it's better to go on the dry side. Not to let them dry completely, but just to go on the dry side. The best way, just try to water at least twice a week or 3 times a week. Small 6 ounces glass of water will do fine. Or if you're going to do it by hand, just count to 5. When you see the water, 5 or 10 seconds, when you see the water come from the bottom, that's enough water for the plant will be happy. The only thing is you want to avoid is the flowers, because sometimes when the chemicals hit the flowers, you want to splash the flowers, you're going to have a little bit of black dots on it. That's because the water hit the flowers. Fertilizer. You can fertilize your Cattleya. I recommend to fertilize your Cattleya at least once a week, 20-20-20. The fertilizer, you can buy the fertilizer in all your local orchid suppliers. You can use 20-20-20 once a week, and once a month you can add a bloom. You can rotate it for a bloom booster. In my personal opinion and expertise, I always do it all year round, regardless. Cattleya have certain diseases that are very common for them. One will be scales. The scales is like a small white powder on the bottom of the leaf. If that happens, that's a common insect that attacks the Cattleyas. A good way to control that is to use a little bit of alcohol. If you don't have that much of a problem, there's like a 1 or 2 plants with that problem, just get alcohol, the cheapest one you can find in the pharmacy. Just put in a spray bottle and you spray on it. That alcohol is so diluted it won't burn the plant. If you don't feel comfortable, you can hit it with a bit of water so you can get rid of everything. Now, you just kill the insect, but you have not solved the problem. You want to make sure that you solve the problem so it won't come back. In the case you have a big collection, more than 10 plants, trust me, it's a big collection, I always recommend to put a bit of insecticide, at least once a month. You can use several types of insecticide. Here in Vizcaya, we try to be as more environmental friendly as possible. So we use organic insecticide. One I do recommend is neem oil. Just apply 2 teaspoons per gallon of water and you spray it. The thing is, you want to spray early in the morning or later in the afternoon. The reason that is, some of those chemicals are oil based, and if you apply the oil, you might burn the plant in a little bit. Or also insects during the noon, they are more active. So you want to catch them when they're kind of sleepy, not doing that much, when they're less mobile. So you want to do it early or late in the afternoon. That will be the best time.